Well, the cross-examination of Thabo Mosia, the police officer who was the first on the scene after the shooting of Senzo Meyiwa, continues today. The officer had testified yesterday that he arrived at the Khumalo home in Vosloorus just 4 hours after Meyiwa was shot. Well, he took pictures of the night and had to face some questions about his investigation. And he has already faced a grilling about the procedures that he followed on the night in question. Our reporter is on the ground to give us more on this. Moloko Moloto joining me live from outside court. Malume, a very warm good morning to you. Yesterday we heard from Thabo Mosia, Advocate Baloyi representing the state, just wanting him to account in terms of all the procedures that he undertook, placing it on record, what steps he followed upon arrival on the scene. But interestingly, cross-examination put him in the hot seat there in terms of the work that he says he's done, but also saying that the scene may have been compromised.
Well, day 3 for Sergeant Thabo Mosia on the witness stand as he continues to account, as you correctly said, for what he did as the forensic investigator. Yes, he was the first forensic investigator to arrive at the scene. However, there were police officers who arrived before him. At the time, the 2 constables and the 2 trainee constables, those are the ones who arrived and then left the scene unsecured and unattended, went to the hospital only to return later and to find that there were people who had already entered into that particular house. And Thabo Mosia, as the person who's responsible for a detailed assessment of the crime scene, including swabbing the door handles and the doors and ensuring that all exhibit at least is accounted for and recorded, says he was called to attend to the scene only 4 hours after the shooting incident had happened. And in his words, as he put it in a sworn statement and also during the cross-examination yesterday, he admits that the fact that he had been called so late to attend to that crime scene might have compromised that particular crime scene, which is really an issue which the defense want to latch on and try to create an impression that indeed the police did not do a good job in terms of doing the investigation at the crime scene.
Come to you as well in terms of what's expected today of Thabo Mosia. We understand cross-examination will continue. What's expected then in court?
Well, Thabo Mosia, Sergeant Thabo Mosia is expected to be back on the witness stand. You would recall that yesterday the proceedings were adjourned for about 5 minutes. This was after Mr. Thabo Mosia himself, when he was fielding cross-examination from Advocate Zitulele. He said, Sergeant Mosia, that he was confused as he was going through his evidence. And as a result, there was a request that the court adjourn at least for 5 minutes. And we saw the lawyers, both from the state side and the defense lawyers, going for a short meeting with the presiding officer, Judge Ratam Khwatleng. And when he returned, he then said he adjourns that particular proceeding yesterday. However, he pointed out that proceedings will proceed today, and Sergeant Mosia will be back on the witness stand for the continuation of cross-examination. First, we understand by Advocate Zitulele Ngumalo and also Advocate Zandile Mshololo, we expect that she will also take turn in cross-examining him, because the other defense lawyers, Mr. Charles Nisi as well as Sipora Mosepele, have already had their turn. And obviously, as we know, the defense, their job is to poke holes, is to discredit the witness, to create an impression that he is not reliable. And up to so far, we have already heard Mr. Thabo Mosia saying that he decided not to do swaps of the door and the handle of the kitchen door, which was apparently used by the alleged intruders, and he says his reason was that he believed that the occupants of the house had already used that particular door, and he believed it was compromised. However, he also told the court that he did not do what is called gunpowder residue test on the people who were with Senzo Meyiwa on the night he was killed. And we heard the defense arguing that it was important for him to do so because at least he would have been able to determine whether they tested positive or not, so that that could assist the police in determining who might have fired that particular gunshot. And he says at the time, because they were not suspects, none of those people in the house who were with Senzo Meyiwa were suspects, he did not deem it necessary to conduct that particular test. And of course, at 10 o'clock, we expect him to take to the witness stand once again for the continuation of cross-examination. We expect this day to be a bit short from what I heard. I'm not too sure at this point in time whether there will be another witness who will be called onto the witness stand. But from what I heard, it is likely to be Mr. Mosia only who will take to the witness stand. But of course, anything can change, and we know already that there's quite a number of witnesses the state has lined up for this particular trial.
All right. Thank you so much, Moloko Moloto. We'll leave it there for now. As soon as court begins, we'll be sure to take our viewers live inside court as we continue to hear that cross-examination by the defense to Sergeant Thabo Mosia. He was on the scene the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. He had procedures that he had to follow, taking certain evidence to the lab for further investigations. But the work of the defense is to try and discredit, or at least find some discrepancies in his evidence, and we'll see if they will find any, if they will succeed as the court tries to find justice, come to the bottom of the truth of what happened on the night that Senzo was shot and killed.